Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Kate Lyman of KL Nutrition is our guest today. Kate is a pro health coach with a thriving practice, a successful business, and a few coaches working underneath her. In this conversation, we talk very simply about what she did to grow this incredible, successful six-figure business. And the answer is not as flashy as you might be expecting. Kate put most of her eggs in the being a great coach basket. Since she started her coaching practice, what she had thought would be a brief detour from a medical degree, but which ended up sticking long term, she's done almost nothing more than to ensure that her clients get incredible experiences and results, which is the most important thing. You've definitely heard us say this, and it's simply obvious too. The slickest sales funnel in the world will only take you so far. Being an incredible client-centered coach is what will give you the staying power needed to make a huge impact and to create a business you love and can be proud of. We'd love to have you screenshot your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. The show notes for this episode and all previous episodes can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. Enrollment is now open for the fall semester of the Primal Health Coach Institute Level 2 certification course, an advanced coaching course that teaches you how to create transformational coach-client relationships. In our mind, the best way to grow your coaching practice. Not only will you learn and practice advanced coaching skills, but this course also satisfies the educational requirements to enable you to sit for the NBC HWC credentialing exam so you can become a board-certified health and wellness coach. PHCI has a 100% pass rate for the board exam. That means every one of our graduates who've sat the board exam have passed it. Stay tuned to the end of the show to learn more or visit primalhealthcoach.com/level2. We're super fired up to share this conversation with you. Please welcome Kate Lyman.
Kate Lyman, thank you for joining us. We're super excited to have you because we love talking to fellow badass coaches. So thank you. Thank you. How are you?
You guys, I'm so excited to be here. I'm great. I'm doing great.
We like to start every conversation, if you don't mind, a little bit of backstory. Can you give us like the 3 to 5 minute kind of origin story about how you got here to this conversation?
Gosh, I will try so hard because it's hard to condense it. But
it is. I know.
But I will do a good job. I'll do my best. So I would just have never thought I would be here where I am now as a nutrition coach. My intro into, and it's strange because I've been in fitness for a long time, so a decade now. I started CrossFit when I was 16. I got my CrossFit L1 as a 17-year-old for my graduation present from my parents.
Cool.
And I've grown up a nerd, love to learn, love school, all that good stuff. So it was the best graduation present ever because not only was it fun, but I was a CrossFit coach all the way through college. And since 5th grade, I was laser focused on being a doctor. I always thought I was going to be a physician assistant and work in the medical field. So I went through college coaching CrossFit, loving it, studying exercise science, loving it, being fitness is a fun thing that I do to make money to go to school, but that's not a real job. And I was halfway through PA school applications, just about to graduate. And I just kind of had this moment of oh no, am I reconsidering what I want to do? Obviously going into medicine is really great, but being in fitness, knowing more about health, the things I'd learned in school kind of just made me change my mind and want to work in more prevention. And so I'm halfway through these horrible applications and I'm I want to work in prevention. What have I been doing? It was this whole little crisis for me. And so stopped my applications and I applied to a few masters in public health programs. So immediately went into school as a public health professional, and it was awesome. I loved it. And at the same time, I had been learning more about nutrition both through personal experience and in school and undergrad, and was really loving to learn more. So I was like digging into as much nutrition information as I could, and I kind of let that kind of mold my public health experience. So I worked in health behavior change and nutrition education all through my graduate studies. And at the same time, I started taking on nutrition clients. And it was this very much like little side gig. I was working with mostly clients from the gym I was coaching at, and loving it, like absolutely loving it. And as I went through school, as I learned more about health behavior theory and behavior change and like behavioral science, I became a better coach, and I just was having so much fun. Like, and it was again, still like, okay, well, I'm in school because I'm going to be a public health professional or a researcher. Like, this isn't a real job. This is just like the side thing I do for fun. Like, pretty cool. It's making me money, but not a lot. And like, this is for fun. So fast forward a little bit, I graduated from my MPH program and I went on to a doctoral program in social and behavioral science in public health with a focus on nutrition education. And so more school. I love school and I was excited for it. My husband and I picked up and moved across the country to Memphis, Tennessee, a place we had never been. And I started this doctoral program, and it was grueling as we had expected. And it was not a good fit for me, and I was miserable. And so at this point, I had built up a pretty solid client base. I had like a real website, like a registered business as a nutrition coach. And I had like the basics of KLN, Kate Lyman Nutrition, like set up. But I couldn't do both. I was a research assistant, I was a full-time student, and I was doing this very fun side gig as a nutrition coach. And ending my first semester of school, I was like, I can't do both. And it sounds like it was such an easy decision to be like, okay, here's one thing you love, absolutely love, and are qualified to do. And here's this school that you hate and you don't even know what you're going to do with it after. It seems like it was an easy decision, but I think that like that title of doctor, that like real job, I've got air quotes going on here, that real job of being a professor or a public health professional or a researcher felt so enticing and felt so much like that was the right call. And still this like whole nutrition side business like wasn't a real job. So it was a really, really hard decision. And obviously I chose KLN, but it didn't, not without tears and like a lot of stressing over it. And so that was 2017. And so I left school. I left the program. We had just left all our family on the West Coast and moved across the country. And now we're here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I was like, okay, I guess we have, like, I'm giving myself 3 to 4 months to see if I can take this full time. And obviously we're here today. So I did. And it was really hard. and luckily it has been fun the whole time, but also very, very hard. And so it's April right now. I don't know when this episode comes out, but it's April, and April marks 6 years for me of KLN.
Wow.
So the last, I guess, 4 have been full time, but before that it was just kind of like a side gig, and the whole time it's been incredible, and I love every second of it.
Oh,
Love that
oh
story.
boy. This is great. This is so great, because what's great about that story is that like you were kind of chasing education for a while, even though you had a business brewing that you loved. And that's one thing we hear a lot of coaches doing is, I'm just going to go get another certificate. I'm just going to go back to school, get more credentials. And they're, in doing so, ignoring building a business that actually can over time thrive. So that's interesting. The other thing that's interesting that you just said is like, I'm kind of waiting for you to tell us when this did become a real job. And it sounds like you've been at it for 6 years, and in the last 3, it's gotten pretty real. But the first three, it was in that build phase. And how many times have we said that, Laura?
Yes,
3
the
years.
magic number. Yes.
Yeah, like building, it does feel like a side hustle. It is a thing you're just doing on the side. It doesn't feel real. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, this is the experience I had, and I don't know if this resonates necessarily with you, but you kind of wake up one day, you're like, oh, actually, This is pretty viable. When did that happen? And it happened not by accident, but because those 3 years of hustle in the beginning. So really,
Yeah.
just the story is bang on. So we have a lot to unpack, I think we want to unpack all that stuff so that our listeners can really just like get into it. So like, maybe we start by going back to the first 3 years, and what kind of stuff were you doing to get clients? So you were at a gym, so right out the gate you had a captive audience, if you will, but what kind of stuff were you doing to get clients or put yourself out there? I'm also using heavy air quotes, listeners, because these are the questions we get asked. How do you find clients? How do you put yourself out there? So what were you doing in those early days?
So I have to say, like, my strategy has never changed. And it's been less of a strategy and more of just what I've built my business on. And it is being the best coach possible ever that I can be. And then like, hopefully like a really good coach comparatively in the field. So I have only ever been client focused. And when you give clients really great results, they tell people about it. Other people see it and other people want it. And so, I've never done marketing really. And so in those beginning days, it was these wonderful clients who were trusting enough to work with me, even though I was just like kind of still figuring it out. Like I can go back and think about some of my coaching strategies 6 years ago and like cringe at them, but it was the best I had with the tools I had at the time. And they trusted me and they worked with me and we worked well together and I gave my all to them. And then other people saw whether it was physical changes or, like changes in their confidence or performance in the gym, whatever that looked like, people saw that and they wanted similar progress. So I picked up a lot of, it was mostly referrals at that point. And it was not only, having that gym base was integral for me. And like having a community from CrossFit was integral for me, but people outside of CrossFit saw their friends get fitter or leaner or feel better or have more energy and wanted, kind of that same thing. And so they would come to me as well. And so that's kind of what those first 3 years looked like.
Okay. I just want to like shout from the rooftops how much I love that answer because it's interesting. Like the intro for our podcast, this is just a little bit of logistic information, but in the intro, when I read it, it's like, by the way to become way to really grow your business and whatever scale is to be a masterful coach, because we talk about why it's important to master the skills of coaching, the art and science of coaching, which is what we teach at our school. And I've said that for years. It's like, if you really, really want to grow your business, just get really good at coaching. Just get really good at coaching and helping people. And like all the flashy marketing strategies and stuff like that can help you later, but until you have a methodology in place that actually helps people and you know how to enact change, it's gonna kind of feel like you're up against a wall. So really awesome answer. Big fan of that answer, that your approach to growing your business was just to coach the heck out of people.
It wasn't, and I know I had a website at the time just to like, with a form that would go to my email essentially. I did not have Instagram. I had like a personal Instagram, but I was doing nothing business related on it. I may have put like one blog post out there, but that was it. Like that, that was it. It was just my clients.
Yeah. It's, so I heard you say something that I know resonates with me, and I think it resonates with Erin. And I think it's a fear a lot of people have, that you look back at your early coaching days and kind of cringe a little bit. You're kind of like, that could have been better. But at the same time, when I look back, I know I didn't do any damage. I know I didn't harm anybody. Right. And I know I helped people, just not as much as I do now, right? As a better coach. And so what got me to be a better coach is experience first, right? Leading with this and realizing where I felt my weaknesses were, realizing where I needed to fill the gaps in my own education and research to be a better coach. So it's kind of like this education and experience kind of need to jockey positions and go hand in hand, rather than feeling like I don't know enough. I don't think I can affect change. You're not going to be good at it until you just get out there and try it.
Absolutely.
The best college professors I ever had were the ones that were actually professionals in the field of study, not just academics that have never actually experienced it. And the same thing goes true here for coaches. Nothing, in my opinion, replaces experience. So you have to be willing to just hold on to the railing and just go. Pick up a client, work with him or her, figure out what you can learn from that relationship and that endeavor, and then find your next client and just get better as you go on. And then you can fill in your educational gaps as you realize, hey, my niche market is like this type of person. Mm-hmm. And I think I need to be a little more proficient in, whatever subject matter that is, or whatever tool or skill or whatever.
Right. And I think you can fill in those gaps without having to go back to school and do a full new degree. Like we live in an era and in a time and place where information is readily accessible, and not just a quick Google search. Like real valid information is accessible to us. So there are ways to close those gaps and just kind of feel more comfortable in knowledge so that you can then put that into practice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So since your business made this shift from a little side hustle to a real thing, that pivot point that happened at about the 3-year mark. So did your marketing efforts change? Have they changed? You said they haven't changed. You still do the same thing you did back then. Are you putting a little bit more into maybe a social presence or blogging or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. So, I leave school. I'm like, okay, I got to take this full time. Literally all I know is how to coach. Like, I don't know a freaking thing about what an email list is or like social media marketing or making my website better or landing pages or funnels. Like, I didn't know anything at all. So it was like, well, more learning. Like, I love learning. That's great. Let's do it. A lot of podcasts, a lot of like reading, like Jenna Kutcher's blog, and people out there working in the online space. But the sole focus continued to be coaching. I started blogging, and so now I've been blogging weekly or biweekly for like 3-4 years. And that helps. That helps with SEO, and it helps me put accessible information out there. I think a little down the road, I got Instagram, and now I do spend some time on Instagram, but it's not how we get our clients. So it's just like another way to put information out there. So yeah, efforts changed. Like, I was like, okay, I do need to get an email list. Like, let me work on that and let me make my website better and more accessible and like a little more in depth, and kind of create a sales page and, all those like business marketing strategies. I did start to put them into place, but never at the expense of what I was doing with my clients, because it was more referrals, bringing clients in those early days. So the other things were helpful in growth long-term, but in that moment of like, I need to take this full time, like I need to pay some bills here. It was still client focused.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, it sounds to me like as your business evolved, so did your strategy to keep pace with the direction you want to go. And I tell a lot of people that are interested in coaching that you don't have to have everything figured out right this second in order to take the first step. You kind of have to take the first step so that you then know what your second step is.
Exactly.
Or your third step or what have you. I think there's value in having a direction. This ultimately is the direction I want to go. I know at the very least, such and such needs to be my first step so that I can actually build the rest of my plan, but you don't have to have it all figured out, because, and here's where I'd love your opinion or maybe an example, because as things evolve and change, you might change your mind. You did this when it came to making a decision to go to coaching versus following medicine.
Right.
So I guess I would love to hear some words of wisdom from you, from your past experience, on maybe some examples of where, as your business progressed and as you matured as a coach, where you might have made sort of decisions along the way and how those made sense to you. Yeah.
So I've screwed up so much. It's ridiculous. And like, haven't we all? Mm-hmm. And so, I'm taking this full time. I'm like kind of consuming a lot of business education and online marketing information. And there were times where I felt like, okay, all these online business gurus say the next step is a course or a group program or like an evergreen product that keeps selling, things like that, because there is a ceiling on one-on-one coaching. Fact. right. We can't, like, I've been there where I took too many clients and I couldn't be the best coach possible because I was burning myself out. And then once I tried to launch a group program, because that was like air quotes here, the next step, totally flopped. You know, I did the whole launch thing, which felt so awkward and weird and inauthentic to me the whole way through. One person signed up. It was my great aunt. So total flop. I like once started to create a course because I was like, oh, then I can like sell the course and blah, blah, blah. And like busted my ass working on this course for like a month before realizing like this goes entirely against the highly individualized, highly supportive coaching that I offer. What did I just do the last month? So there's been times where I felt like there was this pull of what is right to do in business, and every time I did something that didn't feel right, it was a total disaster. But when I have kept my clients being happy as the forefront of what I do, that's where the growth has happened. And like I talked about the email list thing, but before I really even knew what an email list was, I created this resource. It was like a little cookbook. It's like a macro friendly cookbook. And it was really fun to make. I was like, this is going to help my clients. They're going to love it. And then I was like, oh, maybe other people want it too. I'll put it as a freebie on my website. And, you know, and then I'll get those emails. Cause you know, I was told that like an email list is good. And like, it was just, I made this, like I spent time and energy into making this as something that would be helpful for others. And then bam, I put it out and like 400 people on my email list. And I was like, oh, like this is an email list. Look, I'm doing it. You know? Like I think
Go me.
I mean, yeah, it was like, go me. And it was total. Well, I guess I don't know that it was luck, but it was just doing what felt right at the time. And I love my clients that I want to give everything to them. But then I also feel this need to make nutrition education more accessible to those who can't have coaching at the time. So I kind of split my efforts between the two because both feel right to me, especially with this public health background in nutrition education and making information more accessible. So I have found, I don't know if this even answered the question you asked, but I have found that going off your gut is valuable, you know, like doing what feels right to you leads you in the right trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go
Well,
against that, like, you know, it might not go as we want it to go because it doesn't feel good.
right. Well, it's interesting. It's such an interesting story. Like, because you were on one hand doing what you're supposed to do. I'm going to make this course. I'm going to do this launch. And it felt out of integrity. So this, like, you were connecting to kind of your values in a sense. And when you did things that were aligned with your values, it felt right. And it also worked. So I think that's really interesting. And actually you completely, like, I could relate to everything you were saying because I love one-on-one. It's my absolute favorite. I'm right now in the middle of one of those wacky launches, my first one ever. I'm doing a proper launch into my group program. And it's just like, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. I'm like, mercifully, this will be airing well after my launch. So I'm not going to, but like, as I'm in the middle of it, I really don't like it. It's like, no, I don't want to do this again. I'm just going to stick with my one-on-one. Now you say there's a ceiling. Everybody says this, and I always push back. I know that we're trading time for money, but don't you find, and because you're such a masterful coach and you're having this very individual coaching relationship with your clients, client-centered relationship, super important, gang. Like after a while, it gets easier to coach one-on-one. There's an element of predictability in a way. Like, even though this individual in front of me is an individual, quite often these individuals come with the same questions, the same struggles. I've figured out how to help them solve these problems, you know, over the years. So I do feel like one-on-one is somewhat scalable. This is my argument, because I think we get better at it. We can charge more, and it can take less time eventually. Mm-hmm. What do you think? So I guess my question for you, I'll pose a better question for you, because courses and evergreen products has that started to feel more integrity for you? Are you doing those things now, and is it working for you now? Or did you ditch it? Or where did you land with that?
So totally ditched it. I mean, I'm not going to say never, because maybe one day that would feel good. And like, there's nothing wrong with it. Some people thrive off of it. And like, Erin, I hope your launch goes so well, because it can. And, you know, people are really successful in those. For me, it didn't feel good, and maybe one day it will. But I found myself hitting a ceiling, and, you know, that ceiling got higher. Like, I was able to take on more clients with more experience, but there's still a ceiling for me. So my move was to hire more coaches.
Right.
So that's where I'm at now. Right. So that's where I'm at now. And it started with hiring one coach. And it was like another one of these decisions where, like, okay, here's the reality. Like, let's talk money. Like, I wasn't making enough with my ceiling of one-on-one clients, and like the expenses that were coming in. You know, I wasn't making enough. Something had to change. The launch group program, evergreen courses, products, whatever, didn't feel right. And I wasn't like really ready to try it again, maybe out of fear, and that's okay. But for me, I thought, like, okay, I can still be client centered if I bring on another coach who is just as committed to this process as I am. And so it started with one hire, and I trained her, and she has, it was Diana, and she is incredible, and she has background in fitness and nutrition already. But I like essentially created a course, a 4-week training to put her through. And luckily she was in Memphis, so we were able to do this face to face. But I kind of like created this onboarding essentially as I trained her, thinking, you know, I have this other person in mind. I might want to expand to one more coach. And I think for me, that has been the move, because I'm still able to, know her clients, know their clients, like feel in tune with what we're doing, and like kind of have this quality control, coaching control, you know, with the sole point that we are still the best coaches we can possibly be. And so what that has looked like for me, bringing on coaches, I started with one, Diana, and then I added Whitney, and then it was just us three trucking along for like a year and a half. And this past year I've added 3 more coaches, and I would like to stop there, because I feel like with more, there's less quality control. But my coaches, first off, they're incredible. I mean, I'm biased, but they are incredible humans. They're so intelligent. They're so empathetic. They're so good at what they do in coaching. And they have no responsibility beyond being the best coach possible. They don't have to put out content. They don't have to contribute to the blog if they don't want to. Sometimes they do, and that's cool. They don't have to find their own clients. I do it all. So I want to do kind of the dirty work, the less fun, the back end work, so that they can go out and just be the best coaches possible.
How does that work then? When you bring them on, are they paid a salary, or are they just paid a percentage for each client that they bring on? So how do you, because that was, as we were talking about scaling and moving the ceiling, that was the first thing that came to mind. If you want to remain one-on-one coaching, then you need more coaches. And we're starting to see companies like that now, more and more growing, which is awesome, because to your point, there are a lot of people that just want to coach. Like they just want to go get a job. They don't want to start a business. So awesome. This is going to solve both problems. A, your own ceiling, and B, the ability to bring in really great coaches that if they had to start their own business would probably not be out there helping people.
Right.
So I love that. So do you mind sharing a little bit about how that's structured?
Absolutely. Yeah. So they are all 1099 contractors. So they're not salaried employees. Most of them have something else going on. They're not working with me full time. Although they all know like the opportunities there if they want it. And so they get paid a percentage of what the client brings in. So, you know, that means variable paychecks month to month, depending on client load, but they also have the ability to say like, hey, I have more capacity right now. Or like 2 of my coaches are in school, becoming RDs. And they're like, okay, like, you know, this is a really tough semester. I'm going to bring my coaching load down, my client load down. And, you know, they have that ability to be flexible within the constraints of, you know, clients coming in and out. But they make a percentage of what their clients bring in.
Awesome. Yeah. So folks listening from a business perspective, 1099 is basically an independent contractor. They're not a full-on employee. You don't have to provide benefits and all the other stuff. And from the standpoint of gaining help for your business, I just think that's a phenomenal idea. And it's a lot less cumbersome and complicated.
Right. Yes, it's easier for sure. They withhold their own taxes. And it's easier from like a tax perspective. I couldn't tell you how, because I don't do all that stuff, but like, I know it's easier. It allows us to really all just focus on, like, I have these coaching expectations written out for all my coaches. We know them backwards and forwards. And all it says in so many words is like, just be the best coach possible. Communicate, ask questions. You don't know everything. I'm here to help. We're all here to help. We have like a great Voxer where we're all chatting all the time. You just have to be the best coach possible. And so just what you said, Laura, like allows them to just focus on the coaching aspect. And it makes bringing in a team a lot easier to go the 1099 route too. Because like at least I still feel this, like there's a lot of fear in like hiring an employee and benefits, and like, how does that work? I don't really know, so that's been the move for me.
So how did you find them? What was the process of like seeking them out? And was that how much of a learning experience even was that in finding and vetting people and trying? What were you looking for in terms of qualities? How did you do all that stuff?
Right. So like it's a hard answer because I've never opened up applications. I've never like put it out there that I was hiring. I have chased after every one of my coaches. And with my first, Diana, being like very receptive, and she was like so integral into helping me with this scaling process. And my second coach, Whitney, I knew her from actually back my first CrossFit gym I met her when I was 18 and coaching CrossFit in Utah. And she has a similar like public health background experience with like health education and behavioral health, and was kind of like dabbling with nutrition on her own, coaching her husband, who was an Olympic weightlifter and did like hard cuts and stuff, manipulating his weight, and like was helping others. So I knew she had the experience. I knew she had the background in education, the type that I valued, more than just like a personal trainer certificate, like really knowledge about working with individuals. And I freaking chased her down and I begged her. I mean, like weeks, I was like, Whitney, like you are a fit. You are such a perfect fit for this team. Like, please give it a chance, that's kind of how it's been. Maybe not as dramatic as me begging Whitney, but I have sought out the coaches that are on my team, knowing that they share messages that are similar to mine. Not like we're in an echo chamber where nothing changes. We all have different opinions and stuff, but that they share and believe similar messages, that they have experience, whether through education or experience outside of school, working one-on-one with individuals, that they're very empathetic individuals themselves, and that they love the coaching and want to invest their time in coaching individuals in the best way possible.
Wow. Interesting.
Awesome.
Interesting approach. Actually chasing down the ones you want. Love that.
Right. And that's just the benefit of, I think, building your own and being a part of a community that shares your values. I own a CrossFit affiliate in Illinois. I just moved to Florida. So at some point after COVID, they'll buy us out. But that's one of the biggest things I missed, that I miss. So there's a CrossFit gym down here that I go on Saturdays because the rest of I got a whole gym here. I work out from here at home, but that's what I really miss, is that connection with like-minded people that I can eventually reach out and collaborate with. Right. So, and I know I'm going to have people listening to this that are curious about coaching, or maybe they're new and they're hearing, well, I'm not really into fitness, or I'm not into CrossFit, or I don't have this background, or I don't have this education. And what I would love from you, just, my own little sort of pep talk there is, no, that's not your background. That's Kate's background. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about what your background is. And what communities can you leverage? And what context do you have? And what resources do you have at your disposal? What kind of education do you have? Well, my education's in finance. Okay, how can you use that education in a new endeavor, right? I'm trying to help folks get out of their own head, stop focusing on what they don't have, and start focusing on what they do have that they can use to move forward.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would love for just, I guess, a couple nuggets of wisdom or a little pep talk there for folks that might get stuck in that sort of negative self-talk.
Yeah. So I'm going to like kind of go out on a limb here and say that like learning nutrition science is pretty easy. Like to learn about nutrition, isn't, I mean, there are so many avenues to do that. Like,
Right.
you know, you can go get a certification, whatever. Learning how to work with people in a way that benefits them, in a way that brings connection between you and your client, in a way that gives them buy-in into what you're saying, that allows them to trust you, that allows you to be empathetic with them. Those are the characteristics that to me make for a much better coach.
Mhm.
So Zach, one of my coaches, incredible human. He's a lawyer. There we go. Like he has now gone, and like I know he has his PN1 and maybe a different certification too, but like he's a lawyer. His background, he doesn't have all the degrees in nutrition and stuff, but he has a lot of personal experience with nutrition in his own journey. He has personal experiences like an athlete, that where he understands like the former athlete mindset and is able to really connect with clients coming from that space. And he's an empathetic human who listens and understands and communicates well. And those characteristics to me are infinitely more important in the coaching space, especially when providing like highly individualized, highly supportive one-on-one coaching, than knowing like the in and outs of metabolism, right? Or like how your body metabolizes certain vitamins and minerals and whatever. Like we can find that on Google, but also that's outside of our scope as a nutrition coach most of the time. Like that's like, you know, we're not working with individuals with like really complex medical issues. Like that's where registered dietitians work, you know? So we're staying in our scope as nutrition coaches and just focusing a lot more on that connection, that trust, that communication, because when we have that foundation, we can move forward and help that client create the change they're looking for. Way more than like spouting off information that you learned from a nutrition class or something like that.
That's such a good answer, because that what you articulated that is, check this out. Look at this amazing scope of practice we have, where we get to help people enact behavior change, and we get to meet them where they are, and we get to empathize and, you know, show them, teach them, you know, to foster self-efficacy. Like we get to do this, because sometimes the language in health coaching is that our scope of practice limits us. And I don't think that's true at all. I think we get to do the fun stuff. And if you have to refer out to somebody with a broader scope, please do, but understand that there's so much that we can do.
Absolutely. I agree with that 1,000,000%.
Well, I like to get into programming, because I'm a bit of just like that kind of stuff. So I'm really curious to know, it sounds to me like you have a very individualized approach. Yeah, you know, that's how coaching needs to be. The client in front of you really is co-creating the program with you. But do you have a methodology? Is there a program of some kind? Is there a certain duration that you enroll people in? And what does it look like to onboard a client? How does that all go?
Yeah, so we do require a 6-month minimum, and people get so scared. And that's very fair, because it's a commitment. And when I have someone, you know, interested in coaching, they're like, but I don't know about this 6-month thing. I let them know like, hey, I'm not trying to take your money. I'm not trying to hold you to something that's not going to work for you for 6 months. Like if this really didn't work, like we weren't a good fit, I would never, it's not like a signed contract. Like I would never keep taking your money, but I want you to commit to 6 months, because I am a very committed coach and I'm looking for equally committed clients. And that doesn't mean like, you have a weight loss goal of 10 pounds and it's going to take 6 months to get there. It means in 6 months, we are going to work on helping you develop sustainable habits that you practice long-term. Like, I'm trying to work myself out of a job here. I want you to be so self-sufficient, so knowledgeable, so confident in your nutrition and how to approach it that you can then go off, like, spread your wings and fly and go off and continue to practice those long-term sustainable habits on your own without being like, okay, now what's the next thing, right? So we have a 6-month minimum, in place. But our average clients are with us like 9 to 12 months. And some people are at 6 months, like, I feel great, I'm ready to go. And we're like, yeah, go ahead. Like, you've done great. Like, I'm here to help if you need anything after. Some people want additional time together because they've recognized the benefit of periodizing our nutrition and that different seasons come with different goals and things like that. What was that about? Like, kind of about the system. So yeah, so there's a 6-month minimum, but average client is with us about 9 to 12 months. And when we start a client, it's like an almost obnoxiously long questionnaire they fill out, because I'm not just looking at their weight and their height and their age, right? I'm looking at their dieting history because that makes such a huge impact on where we go from here. I'm looking at not just their exercise, but their movement outside of the gym during the day. Like, how sedentary is their job? What do stress levels look like? What does sleep quality look like? What's an average day from waking up to going to sleep during the weekday versus the weekend? What foods they like, what they don't like, where they grocery shop, how many meals a day they like to have, supplements, preferences, all of the things, because all of that plays into what's going to be most sustainable for them. So we use a flexible nutrition approach. And for me, flexible nutrition is just kind of like this coin term that encompasses the process of tracking macros for those for whom it's a good fit. But really, we're talking about flexibility in food choices and in approach to our nutrition. So a majority of our clients come to us and we start them off with tracking macros, knowing that it looks totally different for everyone based on the past experience they've had, or if they've had no experience with it. But with the goal of not being like little tracking robots who have to weigh and measure our food forever, but with the goal of building more awareness and knowledge about our food choices and the composition of our food and things like that. So, that's what we do mostly. And then sometimes people come to us and it's like, this isn't a good fit, the tracking macros, let's find a different approach. And that's totally fine. So yeah, I think that answers the question, but because it's so individualized, it's like that annoying, it depends answer, right? Like, cause it looks so different for everybody.
That's the correct answer. That's the correct answer for any nutrition question.
You have a starting place, right? You have like a standardized starting place for your business that everybody starts so that you can find out more about them and find how this fits.
Right.
There's a lot of people that heavily buy into tracking macros. And then there are others that have an extremely strong aversion to it, both consumers and coaches, the intuitive eating approach. But, just my personal anecdotal experience has been doing some sort of tracking for clients who have been unaware their whole lives is extremely helpful, because I don't know how many people that I talk to that are like, I don't really eat a lot of sugar. And then I just have them fill out a food log. And then I go through the exercise of having them put things into categories: protein, carbohydrate, fat. And then they begin to realize, oh my God,
yeah,
I have almost no protein. I have very little compared to not just carbohydrate, but the sweet stuff and the processed stuff.
Yeah.
It's a huge eye opener for people that they just don't understand. So, awareness is, I think, the first step.
Absolutely. And I think
so much of
like the way we get there can look so different for everyone. For me personally, this was my experience. Like, I was overtraining in CrossFit. I was about 18, 19 years old, overtraining. I was under eating. I was a chronic dieter. I'd started dieting at like 15. How sad is that? But like pretty typical, right? And at the time where I finally like saved up $50 to get a nutrition coach, I was just like a poor college student at the time. I was a vegetarian, had been a vegetarian for like 10 years. I was doing keto, paleo. Like I was like, one diet's good. So why not do all of
Do
them?
them all.
So, so like yeah, exactly. So like a vegetarian, paleo, high fat, low carb type of thing I had going on.
Oh.
I thought. And then this experience of tracking macros was like, oh, okay. So my carbs are through the roof because sweet potatoes are carbs.
Right.
My fat intake is out of control because I eat handfuls of nuts all day because I'm freaking starving and I'm eating like 30 grams of protein a day.
Mm-hmm.
And like that for me was like just the kick in the butt. I needed to be like, whoa, you have no idea what you're doing. Like you have no idea what you're eating. This awareness is so essential for you. And I think when we're able to use tracking as a very temporary tool to help build awareness at times, it can be something really, really valuable. And it doesn't have to mean like weighing and tracking macros. It could be a food log. It could be something different. But there is so much value in that awareness because so many people are out there floating around thinking something's wrong with them, thinking that they are broken, thinking that I'm eating 1,200 calories but nothing's changing. And they are lacking that awareness that allows them to have a little more self-compassion and to work more efficiently towards their goals.
Yeah.
So true.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Okay. So this is great. So you start with macro tracking. Everybody kind of starts there and then that evolves. What is the coaching relationship like? Is it weekly calls? How do you keep in touch with your clients?
So we have weekly check-ins with the clients and I would say vast majority of those we're working with are really busy professionals, lawyers, doctors, busy parents, things like that. And so we've tried to like streamline this process as much as possible. So they do a weekly check-in and it's all online. Like the software I use syncs their MyFitnessPal if they're tracking and like allows them to upload photos and allows us to get biofeedback from the week and things like that. So they do a pretty in-depth check-in once a week. And then outside of that, they have unlimited access to us as their coach. So, I get messages most days, like with questions or like I let them know, hey, if you have a question about something, if you feel unsure about something, shoot me a message. Like I want to be here for you. If you just had a really crappy day, shoot me a message. Like I want to hear about it. Like, because I want you to know that the next day can be a totally different experience. So they have a weekly check-in and they have unlimited access to us as their coach beyond that as well. And I've found that, letting my clients know that I am there for them in every way possible, and making myself as accessible as possible, except Saturdays, I take Saturdays off, has rarely, maybe once ever in like 6 years of doing this, has someone taken advantage of that to the point where I just say, hey, okay, like maybe we need to talk about this. Like maybe slow down a little bit. I don't think you can message me 5 times every day, or like you can't be texting me or something like that, but that's one in hundreds, of times. And so I found that making myself accessible, a supportive figure, a teammate has allowed a lot more communication, a lot more trust between me and the client.
Nice. So are you getting messages through, what's the messaging platform that you use? Is it your text phone?
No, I use Apotheo. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
That is like,
yeah.
Yeah. And it's great. It's easy. It's streamlined. For me specifically, having a team, it's like the game changer because I can kind of get in and see my other coaches' platforms and what they're doing and help them if they have like a techie issue. If it were just me on my own, I don't know that I would use it, but for having a team, it's really, really great.
And how do you delegate? Delegate is probably not the right word. How do you set clients up with your coaches? Are you assigning a client that matches with a certain coach's skill set, or how does that look?
Yeah, so it's based on both availability and best fit. I go by best fit first, and we're all equally, I would say, equally qualified to coach anyone. But there's different personality types and different experiences. And Tessa, one of my coaches, is a mom of 3 and she's like really busy, and so she connects more with those busy moms who are, like struggling to find time for themselves and struggling to work on their own goals because they're so busy with family and taking care of others. So, someone similar to her might be a really great fit for Taysa. And Zach is a brand new dad, and he like wants to work with those in this new parenthood space. And I work with I have not had a child, but I work with a lot of postpartum women because I have a certification in that, and I enjoy that space. And Caitlin is an endurance runner, so she works a lot on endurance athletes. So it's both best fit, and availability, and like sometimes, kind of giving a coach a new type of client, like a new type of individual to work with, because we also don't want to be stuck working with the same people, like the same exact prototype over and over. Although everyone is so individual and their needs will differ, like it's fun to have like a kind of a new challenging type of client. So yeah.
Awesome. So however you pronounce it, Apotheo. I'm not a technology person at all. Is it strictly just messaging, or is it a full platform where everything is incorporated? Because we get that question a lot. What system do you guys recommend?
It is the full platform. It, there's a lot out there, and it was really hard to find one that was geared more towards nutrition, because there's a ton of what's like Train Heroic and I don't know all of them, but there's a lot geared more towards like individualized strength and conditioning programming, fitness programming. Yeah. And Apotheo has that capability as well, but it's really set up well for nutrition. So it takes payments. It sends people through that questionnaire. It automates their monthly payments. It allows for a really seamless check-in and for the coach to respond back through the platform to the check-in. There's a messaging portal so clients can send messages through there. And we all have our different like boundaries as coaches. I'm not a big stickler about it, but like I like when they message through the portal, but if someone sends me an email, that's fine for me, whatever. But yeah, it's pretty comprehensive, and it's great because I'm able to have like a master account essentially, and also see and assign clients to my other coaches, so I can check on their client load and see how they're doing. And if someone has a question, I can go in and see what's going on and help in the best of my ability.
Okay. So so it sounds like with all of your coaches that you have on staff that you can really help a lot of different people, because so many coaches have so many areas of specialty. So how do you or do you sort of market yourself in the context of like your niche market? So who is it that you help? Who do you offer to help, and how do you offer to help them? What's sort of the languaging around that?
I know this is so hard, because I know from all the books and the podcasts and the blog posts and everything that having like a really thought out, niched out ICA, like ideal client, is important. And we kind of don't have that. Like I would like we work with males and females, and I love that. And I love our male clients. Like I want to keep them coming in, so we work with males and females. We work with individuals who are in college, like at, 20 years old, just kind of trying to get out of that early dieting cycle and figure out life in the constraints of crazy college life. And we work with 60-year-olds who are super fit and trying to do a bike race, or 60-year-olds who have a lot of comorbidities and are trying to get healthier, so it's like such a broad spectrum. And for whatever reason, like it has worked. And the reason I haven't niched down more is because I love the variety. So I don't know exactly why this is, but about 90, maybe 85 to 90% of our clients come through internet search. I think it is because of strong SEO from years of blogging consistently, years of showing up online consistently, years of putting out like free resources consistently, updating my website, et cetera, et cetera. But a majority of people come through internet search. So I think they're just looking at like one-on-one nutrition coach. I don't know what they're searching exactly, but something like that. And then hopefully we're speaking to them through the website. So I've put work into my website to try to make it something that connects with people, because we are looking for those committed, connected clients. And then like, social media, it brings in a few, but that's not the majority of where we get our clients. And for me, that's really helpful because it can be exhausting. And when I'm able to navigate social media as just a way to share information when it feels good, it feels fun. The moment it feels like stressful, like, oh, I have to get my face on social media today, or like, oh my gosh, I have to make a post, then it's like exhausting. I have no creativity. I feel like a huge content block, so for me, that works really well.
Oh, wow. So you're getting most of your traffic through web search, but have you invested or paid or had anybody you believe it was the time you spent consistently blogging?
Yeah, I haven't had anyone work on our website besides Diane and I as my first coach. I've never done any paid marketing or ads. Maybe actually that's a lie, because the one time I tried to do like the webinar launch into group program, that horrible experience, I did like 3 paid ads on Facebook, and obviously that's how that went. So, but beyond that, no paid ads, no anything. I think it's just, more due to consistency.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's key. So I heard you say, we haven't really niched down, but what I do gather from just hearing you speak, you have a specific problem you solve generally,
Right.
and you have a specific goal generally to empower your client to work yourself out of a job. It's kind of what I heard. Right. So there's a couple ways you can think through niching down. You can think of it in terms of an individual person that you're speaking to. And honestly, if you're a brand new coach and you do not have the type of connections that you had starting out, right?
Right.
I think there's some value there in being very specific, from a standpoint of just targeting your messaging and confidence on building your program, all of that. But I also think you can think through niching down as specifically what problem are you solving?
Right.
And how you solve it generally, because the mechanisms for most people are the same. It's just how those mechanisms are triggered is going to differ from person to person. So I think you're solving a problem, and people know you can solve a problem. And it sounds to me like a lot of it is probably weight loss and performance.
Yeah.
And by the way, the 2 things I think people Google most is weight loss and performance, right?
Right.
And then it draws them to your website because you've been blogging about it for so long, right?
Yeah.
You've got a lot of content that are out there. And then the right client that just connects to your message is hitting you up, Right. But, we talk about the power of having a niche, because so many of our coaches that are looking to enroll here or anywhere don't necessarily, I would say about half of our students have no professional background or educational background in this. They're not in school for health. They're lawyers, salespeople, soccer moms, right? They don't have a following of any kind, but what they have had is a handful of friends or family members that they've helped, and they have their own story and all these other things. So, I guess what I want to do is try to encourage people not to get stressed out about the concept of niching down, but you do have to have a message. You do have to have a story, and you do have to be a specialist in something, because people don't hire generalists. They hire somebody that can help them with their problem.
Right. Exactly. And so, yeah, I think that there's like so much value in being like so niche down. I see people do it so successfully with like such a specific client they're looking for. I think the reason it's been like harder with the team is because we all want something a little different.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is like our niche is committed clients looking for long-term sustainable changes, whether that be in aesthetics or performance or optimal health. And that right there is enough to drive people away. Quick fix? No, sorry, not the right place. Like a 30-day weight loss goal? Like, no, sorry, not the right place. So, I've tried to make the language on the on the website indicative of like what we do and the the long-term goals we're looking at. And so, yeah, you're right. It is niche down in a way that kind of repels people who would not be a good fit for us.
Mm-hmm. This is a very refreshing conversation because it's like you organically grew a business that was truly a passion project from, when you were a young woman, and you execute it in a way that feels in integrity for you. You're not a shill on, social media, and you don't feel compelled to like, I gotta get my face out there every day. Like, this kind of reminds me of when we speak to Karen Roselle. We had her on a couple times, and she does this happy little practice, which is the antithesis of the scale to 7 figures and, scale your business, go to, group programming, all that kind of hustle stuff that we hear a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is an incredible conversation because you have a very successful business. You've helped a lot of people. You've offered employment to other coaches. Like, there's so much goodness here, and you did it all within integrity and in a way that felt pretty friendly, I guess, not big businessy. And it's pretty cool to hear that can be done. So I really appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom with us.
Yeah, thank you for the nice words. It feels good because, right before we started recording, I was like, that's really nice that you think I'm successful, because I've been like head down working, focusing on my clients for so long, only to kind of like mid last year bring my head up from underwater and be like, hey, we're doing this thing. Like, I've grown a team. We have really happy clients. I'm making some money. This is pretty cool. And I still love it, and like, it wouldn't, without the fun and without so much enjoyment, like, I don't think I would be here, but I love it so much that working a lot is fine, and working hard is fine, and having some longer days is fine because it's fun.
I just want to go back to something that you said, and this is something I run into in my role here as admissions director, this notion of it being a real job, right? And I can completely relate to sort of the emotional upheaval of letting something go that you've been working so hard for years and choosing a different direction. So I think Erin can relate to this too. I invested 20 some odd years in a career in finance. And I made great money doing it. But at the end of the day, it was making me sick, but I felt guilty letting it go because I knew other people that were waiting for me to get hit by a truck so they could have my job, So it's kind of like this, I'm going to let that go, feels extremely irresponsible given all the work and all the time and the education that I put in to get it. And I hear this with some clinical practitioners that are looking to make this change, nurses, people that have been through years of not just college education, master's degrees, lots of clinical internships and things of that nature. And then at the end of the day, deciding or struggling with deciding, I think I want to go this other direction. And then there's this notion of, I'm going to be this health coach, but this is my background. And I've got other people who basically just sell a lot of protein shakes and all them also call themselves a health coach. Right. And so there seems to be this, like, is it a real job? And it's a real job. Look, at the end of the day, what's the point of work?
Right.
The point of working for any of us is to have a purpose, to not be a burden on society, be able to support ourselves, but hopefully help others in the process, right? Having something of value to offer somebody. Who the heck cares whether first of all, that education that you had does not go to waste. The experience that you have in that job, it doesn't go to waste. You take all that with you. You're just moving into a different endeavor that you actually enjoy, so that, to kind of echo your words, regardless of how many hours you're working, it's fun. You don't mind doing it. What's more beautiful than that, really?
Right. It's a real job in the sense that everyone wants that. Right. Everyone wants a job that feels fun and feels good and is fulfilling and is helping others and, like, hopefully pays the bills. Like, I'm not out to be super rich or anything. I just want to be comfortable and love my job. And sometimes I think that requires, like, especially with the individuals you're talking about, Laura, like, blinders on. Don't worry about what other people are doing. It doesn't matter. yes, this is a saturated space, but there are some people doing it so wrong
Right.
that you don't need to worry about them. And there's some people doing it really right. But what's right for them might not be right for you. Like, I keep my Instagram muted because I don't want to know what other people are doing. I want to just do what feels good for me.
Wait. How do you do that?
You can so you can mute stories on Instagram. You can't mute people's posts, but that's fine. Most people, I keep their stories muted.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
It's not, and it's like, because, I don't want to unfollow them. It's like my friends or people in the space doing, similar things, but I don't want to worry about what other people are doing too much, and then I can still go check in if I want or whatever. But like, for me, it's this huge, like, mental burden lifted from the social media space. Just to like not have that right in my face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have a similar, not aversion to social media, but they're on it. But it's a little scary to put themselves out there on social media as a professional with an opinion. Inevitably, someone's going to come out of the woodwork and have something to say about it that you don't want to hear.
Right.
And it holds people back. And look, you can either go into it with confidence and be like, all right, I'm sorry you disagree with me. This is how I feel. This has been my experience, blah, 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 and move on. But I think there's a lot of anxiety around that for some people. Yeah, for sure. So if that's the case, either figure out how to get over it, or that's just not going to be your mode.
Right.
Right. Find another way, because there's lots of other ways. Mm-hmm. I think the approach of finding your community is huge. And I think it's the least stressful way to do it, to be honest. That's just my personal experience. Yeah. So I don't know. I've loved this whole conversation. Is there anything else that you just want to share with people listening? Again, bearing in mind that the people listening are either aspiring health coaches or existing health coaches looking to grow their business. Is there anything else you want to share before we have you basically just pound us with all your contact information so we can bug you and stalk you?
No, I would just say keep focusing on your clients. They're the ones who are going to bring you more business. They're the ones who are going to make you feel good, not like in the validation you need, but validate the work that you're doing that feels so hard sometimes, because it still is work, even when it doesn't feel like a air quote real job. Stay client focused, because they're the people that matter.
Bravo.
Amen. All right. So where can people find you? Where should we check you out?
So my website is KateLymanNutrition.com. And like I said, kind of hang out mostly on Instagram at KL Nutrition.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all your nuggets of wisdom. I know I'm super impressed. And I just want to thank you for all your efforts, not only in helping individual clients, but helping to support other health coaches. I think it's fabulous.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.
Well, if you've been listening at Health Coach Radio, you'll know that we're all about raising the voices of practicing health, fitness, and nutrition coaches, but most importantly, helping to further legitimize this exploding industry. Erin and I have disclosed often that we're on the faculty of the Primal Health Coach Institute, founded by none other than the health and wellness legend Mark Sisson. And we've interviewed dozens of guests from just about every different health coaching program you can think of, and who practice in just about any conceivable way you can think of. But our allegiance is to the health coaching industry in its totality, first and foremost. It's our desire to continuously and unapologetically lift and promote this industry that nudged us to create this podcast for you in the first place. It's this same yearning that encouraged us to take the educational offering at our health coaching school to the next level. we are so proud to offer the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course, which, when combined with our primary course, the Primal Health Coach certification course, not only satisfies the educational requirements to sit for the board exam, but is specifically designed to teach advanced coaching mastery. You will work closely with a small class of peers through this 12-week, very intensive, live online classroom experience to learn how to execute a coaching relationship that is truly transformational. You'll learn and practice how to ask powerful questions, what it means to hold space for your clients, but most importantly, how to actually do it. You'll learn about the craft of motivational interviewing and the nuances of habit change, goal setting, and accountability, and how to nurture your client's own inner knowing, their intuition, and their own self-efficacy, so that they will graduate from your care a truly transformed person. You want a big, successful, powerful coaching practice. And maybe you're devouring our episodes looking for the silver bullet that's going to launch your business into the upper echelons. We've said it a million times and we'll say it again. Your coaching skills are what will make or break you and set you apart for success in this field. So if you're looking to level up your coaching skills and maybe dial up your credential and become a board-eligible health coach, look no further. You can learn more about PHCI's Level 2 program at primalhealthcoach.com/level 2. But if you would value talking to a real person about your path to being a masterful coach and perhaps a board certified coach, book some time with me personally. You can access my calendar at primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or just call me. You can reach me at 844-307-7662. Thank you for listening to Health Coach Radio, and I hope I get to talk to you soon.